Hi, everybody. It's Dan Cerrucci, and here we are again. And I am with Curtis Bashaw, who is, uh, I'm going to say, Curtis, I see you as the presumptive Republican candidate for the Senate from New Jersey. I may be getting a little bit ahead of myself. The primary is until what, June? But people have already started voting. By the way, everybody, I already voted by mail. Okay. So people are already voting, as you know, Curtis. And I just want to say that Curtis describes himself as a entrepreneur, a job creator, a businessman, a proud New Jerseyan, a native of New Jersey, right, Curtis?
Yes, I am. Born and bred.
Absolutely. And I to that I would add that he is a visionary. I think you are a visionary, Curtis. You took Cape May when it was sort of down on its heels and nobody was even thinking about it. That was something like, I don't know, 30 years ago or more, and have
35.
turned it into a mecca. Where did that come from, Curtis?
Oh, I think that my best childhood memories were growing up in Cape May in the summer times with my cousins. We were from Camden County, uh, Cherry Hill, Haddonfield. I actually grew up quite close to the Garden State Racetrack and remember it very well. But we summered in Cape May, and there were 13 cousins. And, families make memories at the Jersey Shore that last a lifetime. They're some of the best times of your life. And my grandfather, who was a God and country conservative preacher, established a Bible conference in Cape May. And so I started working in hospitality business when I was 15 years old and fell in love with that, understanding that companies coming and people are looking for a place to refresh and recharge. So after college, I went back there full time, and Cape May was just ripe with promise, in my opinion. All these old historic buildings that just were so patriotic and Americana that the town was ready to be rediscovered, and it was in the 1980s with the plethora of conversions of old homes to bed and breakfast inns. We were really proud to do the Virginia Hotel 35 years ago, this June 2nd, and started
Wow.
our business with just 25 employees. But we restored a building that was built in 1879 and had been abandoned. And that followed along with Congress Hall and numerous other properties. And now we have 1,000 employees. But, places matter. And I love landmarks. I love that some things stand the test of time. And even I've always said that I'm just a custodian of Congress Hall for a period of time. It's 207 years old this year.
Well,
So our tenure there will not be that long. But boy, oh boy, what a privilege it's been to um, be in a small town, love that place, work with the community. Together as a community, Cape May has really um, has a strong economy, and we welcome people from all over, not just New Jersey. New
mhm.
Jersey love coming to Cape May, but beyond. And it's been a pleasure to do that, and to also have as a side benefit the economic growth that's come from that, the jobs, and it's been a real joy.
Well, Curtis, I'm glad you mentioned Camden County. Uh, we don't get many statewide office holders from South Jersey,
No,
and we we haven't had one from Camden County in decades. Um, and I'm also glad you mentioned Cherry Hill and Garden State Park because I'm sitting right in the center of the former Garden State Park racetrack.
Wow.
Because now where I'm sitting in a condo that is part of a huge uh, planned unit development, including condos and stores and everything else, right in the center of Garden State Park. And Curtis, the only thing that is left from that Garden State, that legendary Garden State Park racetrack, is a tiny little gatehouse facing Route 70. And we're fighting now to save it. And the rest of it is what could have happened to Cape May. It could have very well have happened to Cape May. A bunch of look-alike condos and stores.
Well, look, I love historic preservation. I love that most of the redevelopment work we've done has been preservation oriented, recycling buildings and giving them a new life. I think I remember the Garden State Park uh, really well, the beautiful brickwork. I remember the Latin Casino across the street.
Oh, yes.
So I have very fond memories of that whole area, the Grove Street Circle and right there. But I think preservation matters because you're telling the next generation that our heritage is important. You know, the past should always inform the future. And I think our country right now is in dire need of a refresh on our core values and our civics because the soul of the nation is at risk. Uh, I don't mean to over equate it, but I think, you know, preserving landmarks, reminding people of where we've come from is an important part of a way to chart a course and a vision for the future.
And goodness knows it's probably more important in New Jersey than any other state because Benjamin Franklin said New Jersey is a barrel open at both ends. You've got New York at the top and Philadelphia near the bottom, and people just pass through. And half the time, they don't even take the time to explore what is really a fascinating state, one of the most interesting and fascinating states in the Union. But I have to ask you, Curtis, um, you've been a huge success. Obviously, you've worked very hard. I don't think many people know your story, and this is, I think, what's going to be one of the big challenges of this first part of your campaign is introducing yourself to the people of the state and letting them know your story. That although you are a huge success now, I mean, you started as a waiter and a busboy working like hell in the summers, just doing the grunt work. So when you're running this big company now, you understand that role. But I have to ask you, now that you're a successful businessman, you're known, you're respected. You don't have to do this, Curtis, at this point in your life. I mean, why would you want to get involved in the messy business of politics?
Well, Dan, that's a fair question and a great question. I don't have to do this, but I love the country. And I think about the fact that we're just 2 years away from our 250th birthday. And when I was at the time of the bicentennial in 1976, we'd been talking about that for 5 years. I was actually a tour guide in Philadelphia that summer.
Well,
We're of the people, by the people, for the people. And this campaign is about freedom, opportunity, and security because I think the soul of the nation is at risk. This is a consequential time in our country. Our freedoms are being eroded. We need to unshackle small business from too much regulation and restore the opportunity that free enterprise affords us. And we need to feel safe and secure in our homes and our communities. And people aren't feeling that way now with the border uh, open for illegals to just come pouring into our country. We haven't supported police and law enforcement in the way we should. So these three themes, coupled with the fact that the greatest privilege of my life has been to build a business over time. And when I see government trying to tell and overregulate small business, when I see schools trying to keep secrets from parents about their children, this is going against our core values as a nation. You know, I was a young lad when my grandfather, who was a preacher, he was a conservative guy, he was God and country, and he was persecuted by prosecution. They came after a college he was part of and tried to take away the license, the New Jersey Department of Higher Education. They didn't like his ideas. The FCC, Federal Communications Commission, came after him and a radio license, and he took to the ocean on a boat called Radio Free America to protect his liberties. And we see it today with President Trump having court case after court case. I think, you know, a grave threat to our country is flip-flopping the value that we're innocent until proven guilty beyond any reasonable doubt. And we gave our citizens the benefit of the doubt. Today, our bureaucracies and regulators actually regulate to the worst of us, and you're guilty until proven innocent. The idea that the schools would keep secrets from parents because they think that most parents won't love their children is an absurdity. And what's exciting about our opportunity in this race as Republicans moving through the primary, hopefully June 4th, we need your vote. But then again to November, is that Andy Kim and the Democrats are missing the point of what are now kitchen table issues for our citizens. They don't want an open border. They want law enforcement supported. They don't want the crazy bail reform that's happening that's letting criminals go. They want small businesses and big businesses to create jobs and be productive. And they certainly want their freedoms back. And so I believe that this race will pull independents, unaffiliated voters, as well as conservative Democrats on these no-nonsense kitchen table issues. And the economy is right there with it. The Biden administration can tell us that the economy is good, but if you talk to any New Jerseyan around their kitchen table, they'll tell you how much their utility bills have gone up, how much their grocery basket has gone up, and people are hurting. Our businesses, small businesses, what we have to pay for food to serve in our restaurants, the costs for everyone are extreme. We've got to get back to our core values and really fight for the soul of our nation. And that's a very long answer, Dan, as to why I'm running. But I think you can see I'm passionate about it and committed to it. And I would, you just can't sit on the sofa and yell at the television. We got to
But
get up and be counted.
you certainly know why you're running. You certainly had a good answer for it, Curtis. And I'm one of those people. I'm going to show my age here, who happens to remember your grandfather. Okay, and I remember his sermons and his admonitions on the radio, if you will, as he preached out of Collingswood here, right down the road. And I have to say that I can see in you a lot of the persuasiveness and the passion that your grandfather brought to life. And he also was a man who was a visionary, who sailed against the wind, if you will, and paid a price for it, as you pointed out. And I had the pleasure, Curtis, of listening to your TED talk that you gave in Cape May,
Hmm.
where you talked, and you mentioned it here again, where you talked about giving people the benefit of the doubt and hearing people out and understanding their concerns and their struggles. And that's something that I don't see from the Democrats who are running the state of New Jersey.
Andy Kim calls himself a public servant. He certainly had a great education, and he's worked in some government agencies, and he worked in the Obama White House, and he's been a congressperson. But I'll tell you, Dan, I work for the 1,000 people that work for me. And collectively, we create an enterprise. And the number of car payments and rent payments and mortgage payments that are dependent upon the success of our enterprise, I feel like small business people our public servants, and to talk down to them and to say, oh, they need to pay their fair share, as if the Democrats have some divine knowledge of what fair is. It's demeaning to all the hardworking people that are working every day on the front lines of the economy. They're the backbones of their communities. I want to be a voice for small business. I've grown my business over time and I feel blessed to have the success that we've had, but it's because of the team. It's because all of us in our business, we pitched in, we made bets, we took out the trash, we prepped food, we washed dishes, and we created an experience for people that they love and they come back to refresh themselves. But there are so many businesses. I think the Democrats are off point and they try to keep the Republicans off balance, but we have our footing and we are going to go out there this cycle and we are going to pull and expand the Republican tent. As a business guy, I brought people together to get things done. And our voters want things to get done. They want to give each other the benefit of the doubt. They don't want government coming into their homes and telling them how to live their lives. Our core values as a nation, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. Domestic tranquility was one of the reasons that we pursued a constitution to secure the blessings of liberty for ourselves and our posterity. They're being eroded. And these Democrats think they know what's good for us, but New Jerseyans are ready to say, no, we know what's good for us. Get off our backs. And that's our mission.
But Curtis, it has been 36 years
52.
since New Jersey elected a Republican senator. I mean, this is a big hill you're attempting to climb, Curtis.
Dan, do you know how many people told me it was impossible to fix up Congress Hall? Do you know how many people say you shouldn't try because it's not going to work? But if not now, when? Like, we win or stay even. In the not trying, we give up. I actually believe that we will win this fall because it's a 1980 all over again. There is a percolating sentiment in our state. We have 2.5 million unaffiliated voters that want common sense solutions. They don't want more of this doublespeak from the left, this regulation from the left, this one size fits all solutions. They want common sense solutions that restore their freedoms, let them live with their families, create opportunities for jobs again, close the border, protect parental rights, and enable them to pursue their happiness as a family. And the Republican message is that message in New Jersey this fall. And I believe we're going to see Republicans turn out in record numbers this year. I think we're going to see independents move to the Republican camp. And I even think we're going to see a lot of Democrats who don't want this gobbledygook in the schools. And they certainly don't want this border mess that we have permeating our communities, taxing our resources, making us feel less safe.
Well, I'm sitting here in Cherry Hill, as I said. We're both from South Jersey, and we have a crisis in the Cherry Hill schools where they're pushing critical race theory and these other, basically indoctrinating kids with propaganda, accusing their enemies of banning books. We're not trying to ban books. We are trying to keep what are patently obscene books out of elementary schools. Elementary schools, okay? And at the same time, Curtis, the test scores for kids proficiency in math and reading and writing have gone down in Cherry Hill. Now, if you know you and you know South Jersey,
I
Cherry
went to
Hill
Cherry
made its
Hill schools
reputation.
through eighth grade. I went to Cherry Hill schools through eighth grade.
There you are. Okay. And as you know, Cherry Hill schools Cherry Hill made its reputation on the school system. That's
Yes,
why
we did.
people moved there in the first place,
Yep.
Curtis.
We had
And
great
now,
schools. But I'll tell you this, schools were to teach reading, writing, and arithmetic and our civics. They were to teach us how to think, not what to think. And this indoctrination that's happening in our schools, the getting away from the basic core tenets and trying to encroach upon what is the purview of families is inappropriate. And we need to reset those boundaries and let parents have the authority over their children to teach them the morals and bring them up in the way they think they should be brought up.
At the discretion of the parents who are
Correct.
responsible for their children.
Yeah, the
Now,
sanctity of the home's being violated, and again, they're doing this because they think the worst of all of us, you know, and they can't bucket every parent as someone that's going to neglect their child or not love their child in a time of distress. And it's gone too far, and people are sick of it. It is one of the biggest lightning rod issues. You know, you talk about the diversity of New Jersey. I had the privilege of running this campaign through 19 county conventions. 19 of our 21 counties have these conventions in March, February and March.
right.
What a baptism into Jerseyana and to understanding the diversity of our state and its beauty from the north to the south, to the farmlands, to the cities, to the suburbs. And New Jerseyans have grit. They're can do. They're willing to work hard. They got a great sense of humor. They're scrappy, and yet they're fatigued right now. They feel beaten down by what government's been doing, coming out of these COVID draconian lockdowns, where our governor made himself emperor for 2 years. People are sick of this and they're ready for a change. And I believe that being a political outsider, a business guy that's built a business that people know, I joked, Dan, you were talking about whether people know me or not. I decided that maybe at some point I should just introduce myself as Congress Hall and say I'm running for Senate, because I think that name ID is probably a little bit more than mine. But the word is spreading, and we feel really good about our prospects and energized to take on this campaign. Again, now to June 4th, we need people to vote on June 4th for Curtis Bashaw in the primary. And then we'll take it to Andy Kim in the general election and expose his extreme liberalism and pull people to our side of the aisle. And I think we'll win.
And if I'm correct, Andy Kim never built anything. He never built a business. He never restored a building, and he never met a payroll.
He hasn't created a job or met a payroll. We met a payroll every 2 weeks for 35 years. We lived by a budget. We had to. Families live by budgets. So do small businesses. And yet the Democrats don't. And we need to just get back to these basics, common sense stuff, and take our state back.
Well, as I said earlier, Curtis, people are already voting um, in the Republican primary, and we want to urge them to get out and vote for Curtis. I've been a part of the Republican Party for quite a while, and I love the fact that someone is coming from outside the political establishment, outside of entrenched politics, and bringing his knowledge, his experience, his talent, his ability to work with people, and his desire to bring people together. I think this is critically important. Now, Donald Trump is going to be, and apparently Donald Trump also thinks New Jersey is up for grabs.
Yes, he
He's
does.
going to be in New Jersey on May 11th. It's going to be a big event right up the road from
Huge
you.
event. Huge event on the beach. It's going to be amazing.
So I don't think that Donald Trump would be coming into New, and a lot of people are surprised by it. But I don't think he would be coming into New Jersey if he did not think that this state and this Senate race were winnable.
Donald Trump calls New Jersey home for a good part of the year in Bedminster. Donald Trump believes that we can win this state for the presidency, and I believe we can run it for the Senate. He just polled within 6 or 5 points of President Biden,
Right.
and I believe that there is a real shot in this state this year. People are exhausted, fed up, tired. They want to get back to the basics. They want freedom, they want opportunity, and they want security. And I think May 11th is going to be a huge day in our state. We're going to see crowds in Wildwood that have never been seen before.
And what I was going to say um, is, and you mentioned the polls. In a recent poll, you have polled within striking distance of Andy Kim, um, which I think is very revealing, because I mean he's a professional politician, and he is a relentless self promoter. Okay, and in fact, I think this is what makes up 80% of the time he spends supposedly
I'll just say
on the
one.
job.
I think actions speak louder than words, and you can promote yourself, but his track record in Congress is pretty weak. He votes with the squad every time. He's very left wing, and he's a proud progressive. And I think he's out of step with New Jersey voters, candidly. And we just knuckled down for 35 years and created 1,000 jobs, made a payroll, learned how to bring people together to get things done. And we don't have to do this. This isn't my career. Politics is not my career, but I'm a citizen of a country that is self-governed. And as I said at the beginning, it's of the people, by the people, for the people. We need to stand up and be counted. And I'm on a mission here to win this seat back for Republicans for the first time in 52 years. We're going to climb that hill, but I also am on a mission to bring back these core values to our nation and our state. So we can, do you know New Jersey's flag? The motto is on it. It's a gorgeous flag. Liberty and prosperity. They are inextricably linked. I believe that more government equals less freedom. And so to me, these core values are at the heart and soul of this election this year. And I look forward to running this race. I appreciate you bringing up the early voting and the mail-in ballots. Please vote. Vote early. Vote by mail if you have a ballot. We want to be able, it's helpful to our campaigns to know who's voted, so we know whose door to knock on election day. But, we don't want to expose ourselves as Republicans to a rainy day. We want to be as prepared as the Democrats. And so we're going to work hard on the ground game in these campaigns, activating people, turning out the vote, supporting the candidates up and down the ticket, top to bottom. Republicans have to be united this cycle.
Oh, it's so important.
Yes.
Yes. Curtis, let me conclude by asking you, as you go around the state, and like you said, you've been in 19 of the 21 counties at these conventions, but I know you've done more than that. I mean, you're very intensely involved. What is the biggest single concern or issue you're hearing about from the people?
The border, double digits. I mean, parental rights is really big, and inflation in the economy is really big, but the border is a resounding, what is going on here? It's our national boundaries. It's to have sanctuary states when the federal policy is one thing, it also creates confusion. I think that whole sanctuary movement, we need to enforce our laws at the border. We need to shut down the illegal immigration, and we need to stop the flow of these drugs, these people that are not here with the best interest of our country at heart. And yes, there's some people seeking asylum, but that's at the margins of what's happening right now. We're being stampeded, and our social services can't support it. And people like veterans and like small business people And parents who are struggling don't understand why we're putting kids in our schools that aren't paying for these schools, and why we're giving them resources to come into our country, and then we're not even prosecuting them if they hurt our policemen in Times Square. It just goes, it's a massive issue for us. And I think it's going to win the day actually come this fall.
Well, we shall see. And it's been great chatting with you, Curtis. I'm so glad we had this opportunity. We had spoken about possibly doing this, and I'm glad we were able to do it. And I hope that we will be talking again several times during the campaign. And I might even see you if I'm down there at the Congress in the Brown Room having one of the best martinis this side of the Upper East Side.
Oh, Dan, thank you for that. It's we have to make sure we're enjoying life and making the most of it. And that's why I love being in the hospitality business. You just want people to make themselves at home, relax, unwind, have a good time. And our politics we need to let the air out so we can actually enjoy the freedoms we have. We're the greatest exception to tyranny in the history of humankind. We are exceptional in that way. And these freedoms that we have of assembly, worship, enterprise, um, all the speech, all these freedoms are such a blessing. Most people don't have them. And we've been lacerating ourselves a little bit too much. We've got to celebrate what we have and get back in a hopeful way to rebuilding freedom, opportunity, and security so that by the time 2026 comes around, we have a great celebration of our 250th anniversary.
Well, I think you'd be a great senator for New Jersey when that moment arrives, Curtis.
Well, thanks for your hospitality on this show tonight, and I look forward to the next time, Dan. Thank you very, very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good
Bye
night.
bye.